Hi everyone, myself Abhijit Dev, and this is your third video of the chapter Reproduction in Organisms. And today we'll be starting from the topic sexual reproduction. Yeah, sexual reproduction involves, as we know, sexual reproduction involves formation of two types of gametes, that is male and female gametes, either by same individual or by different individuals of the opposite sexes. These gametes fuse to form the zygote, which develops to form new organism. It is an elaborate, complex, and slow process as compared to asexual reproduction. Sorry. Because of the fusion of male and female gametes, sexual reproduction results in offsprings that are not identical to the parents or among themselves. And yeah, nature prefers sexual reproduction because from sexual reproduction evolution occurs, and in asexual reproduction the progeny or the new organisms is identical to its parents, so no sorts of evolution or taking places. As a result, with the changing environment, it becomes quite difficult for that species to survive, so nature generally prefers sexual reproduction. Yeah, it is an elaborate, complex, and slow process as compared to asexual reproduction. Because of the fusion of male and female gametes, sexual reproduction results in offsprings that are not identical to the parents or among themselves. A study of diverse organisms, plants, animals, or fungi show that though they differ so greatly in external morphology, internal structure, and physiology, when it comes to sexual mode of reproduction, surprisingly, they share a similar pattern. Okay, let us discuss what features are common to these diverse organisms. All organisms have to reach a certain age of growth and maturity in their life before they can sexually reproduce, or before they can reproduce sexually. That period of growth is called the juvenile phase. It is known as vegetative phase in plants. This phase is of variable duration in different organisms. The end of juvenile or vegetative phase, which marks the beginning of the reproductive phase, can be easily seen in higher plants when they come to flower. Yeah, but that period is different for different species. Observe a few trees in your area. Do they flower during the same month year after year? Do you think that the ability of fruits like mango, apple, jackfruits, etc. is seasonal? Are there some plants that flower throughout the year and some other that show seasonal flowering? Plants, some are annual, biennial types, show clear-cut vegetative, reproductive, and senescent phase. Senescent phase is the last phase. But the perennial species, but in the perennial species, it is very difficult to clearly define these phases. A few plants exhibit unusual flowering phenomena. Some of them, such as bamboo species, which flowers once in their lifetime, generally after 50 to 100 years, produce a large number of fruits and die. Another plant, Strobilanthus kunthiana, yeah, and its common name is Nila kuranji, which flowers once in a 12 years. As many of you would be knowing that this plant flowered during September October 2006. Its mass flowering transformed large tracts of hilly areas in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu into blue stretches and attracted a large number of tourists. In animals, the juvenile phase is followed by morphological and physiological changes prior to active reproductive behavior. The reproductive phase is also of variable duration in different organisms. Among animals, for example, birds, do they lay eggs all through the year, or it is a seasonal phenomenon? What about the other animals like frogs and lizards? You will notice that birds living in nature lay eggs only seasonally. However, birds in captivity, like in poultry farms, can also be made to lay eggs. Can be made to lay eggs throughout the year. In this case, laying eggs is not related to reproduction, but it is a commercial exploitation of human welfare. For human welfare, for your human need, we are you exploiting the resources in poultry farms, so they to get more eggs and fulfill the human demand and for our need actually. The females of placental mammals exhibit cyclic changes in the activities of ovaries and accessory ducts as well as hormones during the reproductive phases. In non-primate mammals like cows, sheep, rats, deer, dogs, tiger, etc., such cyclic changes during reproduction are called ostrich cycle. In non-primate, here non-primates refer to that animal that is not primate like birds, reptiles, amphibians, and some mammals. Generally, non-primates possess non-prehensile limbs or tails. Some non-primates, such as insects, possess jointed appendages, etc. And their cycle or that cyclic changes during reproduction is called ostrich cycle. Whereas in primates like those characterized by large brain, usually of hands and complex behavior like human, apes, etc., monkeys, is called menstrual cycle. Many mammals, especially those living in natural wild conditions, exhibit such cycles only during favorable seasons in their reproductive phases and therefore called seasonal breeders. Many other mammals are reproductively active throughout their reproductive phase and hence are called continuous breeders. And so those who are active throughout their reproductive phases, they are continuous breeders, and some which are during a particular season they becomes or they have reproductive phase, they are called seasonal breeders, or during favorable season in their reproductive phase they have the reproductive phases. That all will grow old if we live long enough is something that we recognize. But what is meant by growing old? Here, growing old means the end of reproductive phase, which can be considered as one of the parameters of senescence or old age. So that is senescence stage, vegetative, reproductive, and senescence. There are concomitant changes in the body like slowing of metabolism. During the last phase of lifespan, old age ultimately leads to death. In both plants and animals, hormones are responsible for the transition between three phases. Interaction between hormones and certain environmental factors regulate the reproductive processes and the associated behavioral expression of the organisms. Some of the events that are taking place in sexual reproduction are after attaining of maturity, all sexually reproducing organisms exhibit events and processes that have remarkable fundamental similarity, even though the structures are associated with sexual reproduction are indeed very different. The events of sexual reproduction, though elaborate and complex, follow a regular sequence. Sexual reproduction is characterized by the fusion or fertilization of the male and female gametes, the formation of zygote, and then embryogenesis. For convenience, those sequential events can be grouped into three distinct stages, namely the pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. That the sequential stages of sexual reproduction are, that is pre-fertilization, fertilization, post-fertilization events. These are the three distinct events. And in our next class, we'll be studying these stages or these events in details. Thank you.